What's up, A to Z Sports, live on a Monday. Been a busy weekend as we are back after a NFL Divisional playoff weekend on the National Championship and College Football Game Day. We've also reacted and had a weekend to gather more information about the Titans' new general manager hire of Mike Borgonzi from the Kansas City Chiefs, who will appear in their 7th consecutive AFC Championship game. So a lot to get to here with Sam and I about all the things that we've learned over the weekend, whether it's on the football field or off the football field, because Mike Borgonzi is the new Titans GM. Happened Friday afternoon. Sam, you and I did a 30-minute reaction without information. We had some questions. I think we did a good job of trying to get answers to those questions. So we will discuss that. And David says, no, Zach, I will update Zach's situation and status momentarily, because we are all doing better than Zach is doing right now. So a little foreshadowing on that. So Sam, welcome in. Going to have a great Monday morning off a busy football weekend. Let's get it rolling.
Let's do it. Got to talk Titans. Got to talk NFL divisional round matchups as well. Going to be a good show with a lot of takes and some information about some of the questions that we asked before the weekend, both about Mike Borgonzi, Austin, and the NFL as a whole, because we previewed Bills Ravens, we previewed the Washington Commanders and Detroit Lions, and now we have some game reactions to get to. So going to be a great show this morning. Make sure those of you watching share the show. That's the best way to support us, is hitting that share button on Facebook, getting it out on that timeline, and making sure you let people know that A to Z Sports is live. You can also take the YouTube link or repost us at Twitter X on the Twitter X timeline and get the word out in that way. Also, be sure to like the show. Just go leave a thumbs up. It'll help us out a lot. So before we get it started, need to see all of those likes coming in as we kick it off here on a Monday morning.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Sam Phelan, one of our Titans reporters for A to Z Sports.com, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. Hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. You can also leave a 5-star Google review, as unfortunately we'll have to leave our Google review update to another day when Zach does return. But also have to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help all of you guys. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. Get them in Lebanon, wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Farm Bureau Health Plans, get better with your health coverage, fbhp.com/ATOZ. T-Dot, keeping our state beautiful when nobody trashes Tennessee.com. And our new friends, Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life, but a click can help you out quite a bit. BartDurham.com. So what's going on with Zach, Patrick asked. Zach is fine. He's just very cold, because I got a text this morning from Zach saying that his heat went out this overnight. And if you are anywhere in Nashville or in the country, you know it's freezing outside. And so Zach has been freezing inside his house. And so he's like, yeah, I got to get that figured out. So with Zach's situation, how about everybody just drop the temperature of where they're living right now? So because Zach woke up to a 50-degree home, and it was just going to get colder, as currently at my house, Sam, it is 8 degrees outside. Inside, it is nice and cozy, exactly where I want it, which is 68. But Zach's house is about 50 and going the wrong direction. So that's why Zach's not doing the show today, because he would be in an igloo, would be warmer than what his house currently is. So we'll see if Zach can get the heating situation figured out to be back on the show tomorrow or not.
Yeah, I do not envy that spot. No, I keep my place pretty cold. I'm like a nice chill inside type of guy. I'd rather have to have a hoodie on inside than ever be hot inside.
Agree. So you can only take off so much, right? You can always add layers.
There's something nice in this is way too inside baseball, but whatever. This is weird. There's something really nice and comforting about like a really cold indoor environment. I've been finding myself watching YouTube videos recently where it's just like a guy who's surviving in the Alaskan wilderness, and he just like snow camps and stuff. And I find it really cool.
Don't get any ideas.
Well, it's sick. He like carves out igloos for himself up in the mountains, and then like something about being in like a nice cold environment, watching like a guy camping makes me feel like a survivalist.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of
Pretty
are.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So anyway, all right, let's get into it.
Hey, no, the chat knows what's up. Outdoor boys, man. Yeah, the outdoor boys. I've been living on Outdoor Boys YouTube.
Hilarious. All right, so let's dive into this because Sam, we had an emergency live stream Friday afternoon because the Titans made a general manager hire. And I think it kind of caught most everybody off guard, right? Because we spent Friday morning talking about, man, if it's John Eric Sullivan from the Packers, they're going to have to guard against all the Buddy hire hate that they're going to get coming their way. And so you and I jumped on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch once it was Mike Borgonzi. That was the hire coming from the Kansas City Chiefs. And we'll get to the playoff football over the weekend where the Chiefs are going to their seventh consecutive AFC Championship game. By the way, you were very right about something that happened over the weekend. I was very right about a couple things that happened over the weekend as well on the football field. So we'll discuss that later on the show. But I thought the most important part of our 30-minute live stream was not the acronym that this team could use with the British Broadcasting Company, but it was also the question that you thought of immediately of, okay, how did this go down? So Sam, take us back. If you missed Friday's show, you missed the doozy Friday afternoon show, take us through your thought process. And we went to find the answer to that question immediately Friday.
Yeah, well, I think, Mike Borgonzi was pretty widely considered the top candidate available among GMs, or maybe the most qualified candidate. Like you said, 7 straight AFC Championship games for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's no small feat. Really, it's quite impossible. And so anybody who has had their fingerprints on the Chiefs, roster building process over the last 7 years, I think is enviable for front offices right now. Mike Borgonzi got interviewed by the Titans, got interviewed by the Washington Commanders the last year for a job that he really wanted. He was interviewed by the New York Jets, and I thought would be the favorite to kind of land that Jets job. I know the Raiders had some interest as well. So the entire NFL was kind of looking and assuming Mike Borgonzi would get a job during this cycle, but he felt overqualified to me, Austin, for what the Titans exactly were looking for. The Titans described this job as being sort of a super scout, a boots on the ground talent evaluator who is going to go and work on the scouting process to bring data back to Chad Brinker, who is then going to make decisions. And so with the knowledge that Chad Brinker was going to be the Titans' primary decision maker, I didn't really suspect Mike Borgonzi to have a ton of interest in the Titans' job, especially when you look at the candidates that the Titans interviewed, not just once, but twice, and sort of how they fit that mold that Tennessee had described. The number one candidate that I expected it to be, that you expected it to be, was John Eric Sullivan, guy from Green Bay who had over 13 years working alongside Chad Brinker, who were workout buddies in the morning when they were working for the Packers, that developed a genuine friendship. And then John Eric Sullivan was a guy who, has an extensive scouting background and is still very hands-on in Green Bay's pre-draft process. That felt like an easier transition, and it seemed hard to believe to me that a guy who had everything the Titans were looking for in terms of checking boxes of a resume, that also was really, really good personal friends with the president of football operations.
Super tight was what I was told. Yeah. Super tight. John Eric Sullivan, Chad Brinker, super tight.
It seemed hard to believe that guy would get passed up for the job if Chad Brinker was the one making the decision. And so while the Mike Borgonzi news came out, and my thought was like, wow, good hire for Tennessee, it did lead me down a road of asking questions about how exactly did this happen? Yeah. Who is the person that made this hire? Because to me, that mattered even more than the hire itself. The idea that, okay, if Chad Brinker made this hire, that's one thing. If Amy Adams Strunk or Burke Nihill or somebody went over Chad Brinker's head and hired the guy from the Chiefs because he's the guy from the Chiefs and didn't allow Chad to make the hire that Chad wanted. Well, now I have concerns about this structure that I've been so widely concerned about for the last few months here, because now you open yourself up to another power struggle. You open yourself up to some visions that are potentially contradictory of one another. And so it led us down that path to go and try and chase those answers.
Absolutely. And so I thought we went to the phones, right? I think we collabed on this. The good thing about what A to Z has with our Titans coverage is we've got multiple people that know people and that can call people. And we did a lot of good things. So it was like you, me, Easton, Buck. I talked to Zach some, kept him in the loop on some of this. And we found some answers to these questions. And so, Sam, you wrote this on A to Z sports.com on Saturday morning when we put this out there that who made the hire? Sources have told A to Z Sports that Chad Brinker made the choice to hire Borgonzi. Brinker wanted to keep an open mind during the interview process and consciously avoided making a buddy hire based on his pre-existing relationships. John Eric Sullivan left his in-person interview with the Titans on Thursday not feeling convinced that he had the job, a source said. A different source also mentioned that Bills executive Terrence Gray thought he was going to get the job when he finished his in-person interview. And I'll take it another step further. Sam, you and I also brought up another question on that Friday afternoon emergency live stream of how did the news get out there? Because when we were live, it was unofficial. There was no contract signed. There was no contract negotiated. It was Mike Borgonzi and the Titans are moving towards hiring Borgonzi as the general manager, but still working through things. And so we're thinking like, how in the hell can the Titans let this news get out there before it's actually official? Because now Mike Borgonzi has extra leverage of, yeah, you want to sweeten that pot? You want to throw in a little bit, add another zero, maybe up that ante a little bit, because now you're stuck. Because if it falls through, you look dumb. Well, I'll also add that one of the 5 members that did not get the job had the news leak from their camp, whatever their camp includes, whether their agent, them themselves, or somebody else. Somebody that was not thrilled with them not getting the job, sent it out there to Ian Rappaport, Pelissero, Schefter, Diana Rossini, and whoever the hell else was reporting initially on that. So I asked you Friday, if they go away from John Eric Sullivan, does that make you feel better about the process? And the answer is yes, as long as Chad Brinker made the hire. Mm-hmm. We found out that this was Chad Brinker making the hire. And Rashid says, sounds like John Eric Sullivan was the one to leak. I will eliminate that one. It was not John Eric Sullivan. So it was one of the other 4. So it was not Borgonzi's people, and it was not John Eric Sullivan's people. So you guys can go guess and have a 25% chance to get that one. So Sam, any initial reactions on learning that information that you want to kind of fill in from what I said?
Well, I think you hit it, right? Like it makes me feel a lot more confident in the Titans process. I do think this is a refreshing change of pace for the Tennessee Titans and the way that they've sort of done business here. Titans fans are all too familiar with the idea of Mike Vrabel hiring whoever to be his next coordinator because he has a pre-existing relationship with them, or bringing in players that he was friends with, bringing in coaches that he was friends with. Amy Adams Strunk, the last time the Titans were looking for a general manager, went above Mike Vrabel, who is supposed to be the guy with final say, right? When John Robinson got fired, it was Mike Vrabel's show to run. That was what Amy said. And then not but 2 months later, she's hiring Rand Carthon against Vrabel's wishes because the NFL pushed it on Amy to have that done. Mike had said, let's bring in Ryan Cowden. Let's maybe make Rand an assistant GM or do something like that. Let's bring him in, try and get him in the front office, but not give him full GM powers. Amy neglected that feedback and just kind of went and did what she wanted to do and what she had been kind of encouraged to do by the NFL. And it immediately created this sort of weird dynamic between Carthon and Vrabel, where even if they had a pretty good personal relationship, which I have every reason to believe that they did, that they liked each other as men, they didn't really have cohesive vision for where the franchise was going to go.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel did not think Rand was ready to have the full GM title for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that has become the standard now for Titans football. And so this does feel like a nice little change of pace where Amy went a little bit hands off. Amy let Chad Brinker be the one to make this call on who he felt was best and most qualified. And as much as he maybe would have wanted to bring in his friend and John Eric Sullivan, he goes kind of off the board and gets who I think most people around the industry are believing was the best candidate available. So all good things for the Titans, reasons for them to celebrate.
No doubt. There is some other reporting because we just went through the reporting that we have done over the weekend at A2Zsports.com, and you can go read Sam's article in its entirety. A2Zsports.com/Titans is the direct link to our Titans homepage there. Buck Rising has also done some reporting this morning about 2 names that he is hearing for assistant general manager jobs under Mike Borgonzi. And I think there is a full ass show about one of those people that you might be seeing next week. I'll leave that tease at that. So, but there was other reporting done surrounding this job and this hire from Mike Borgonzi outside of what we have been talking about. And I think there's one under the radar nugget that really makes me think like that. Okay, this is different. Do we really know what's true and what's not true? So I'll get to that, Sam. You and I have not really talked about this at all, but first I want to tell everybody about T-Dots. Nobody trashes Tennessee.com. That is the campaign that T-Dots out there running to try to help find the solution to end littering in our state. That is Nobody trashes Tennessee.com. It's a very cold weekend out there. Hopefully it's not going to last forever. It won't last forever, but when it gets warmer this spring, we can all pitch in and do our part to keep our state and our communities beautiful by cleaning up the litter on our roadways, our highways, and pitching in with T-Dot's effort. They spend a ton of money, $23 million a year, every year, trying to clean up trash on the side of the street and the roads. That's ridiculous. There's 88 million pieces plus of litter in the state, and we can all do our part with that by helping out our communities, whether it's us individually changing our bad habits, fixing some things, or pitching in and joining local cleanups. We can all be a part of it by going to NobodyTrashesTennessee.com.
Today's show is brought to you by BetMGM. BetMGM is the sportsbook born in Vegas. We'll get to it a little bit later on, but I hit a big bet this weekend with BetMGM that we'll have to talk about. I got a victory lap to take with the chat, but if you're looking to hit something big, make sure you go to BetMGM. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you sign up. Get up to $1,500 back in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet misses, and get a second chance to win big if it loses, with the money going back into your account in the form of a bonus bet. So the sportsbook born in Vegas, BetMGM, and BetMGM.com.
All right, and Sam, I did not play your bet that hit. Remember, we talked about that. Yeah, I did you a solid. I didn't tail it either. I just stayed away. So you're welcome for the extra money in your BetMGM account last night. We'll talk more. Okay, so we did the reporting at A2Zsports.com that Chad Brinker is the one who made this hire. He made the decision to get Borgonzi. He was very conscious about the buddy hire perception if it was John Eric Sullivan. Now, I don't think John Eric Sullivan would have been a bad hire, but I do think that there is something that Chad Brinker wanted to guard against that we discussed Friday morning before the hire was made. Albert Breer did some reporting on Sports Illustrated that came out, I think it was this morning, maybe it was late last night, about this. And so here is some background on Borgonzi, and then I'll get to this extra nugget that's not on this graphic. So Albert Breer on SI says, so how did the hiring go down? It really started with this existing relationship between Brinker and Borgonzi. Both came into the NFL in 2009 and got to know each other on the road, where scouts tend to get to know each other by work trips and traveling. More recently, because of the trust they share, they were respective point men on trades involving L'Jarius Sneed and DeAndre Hopkins over the last 12 months. And so that foundation was off which Borgonzi's case was built the past few days as he started to win the interview. Some other notes that Breer adds: the Titans came to view Borgonzi as the most complete candidate, both in his experience and in how he would articulate a clear plan for the franchise, and one that showed he was legitimately prepared for everything be it in coaching, scouting, player development, sports science, analytics, whatever came his way, Borgonzi showed he would be ready. Another one, Borgonzi was in a small decision-making circle in Kansas City with GM Brett Veach, Coach Andy Reid, and Senior VP of Football Operations Chris Shea. So every decision made over the past 8 seasons in Kansas City had Borgonzi's fingerprints on it. So that's big, right? Like that is a ringing loud endorsement for Mike Borgonzi, as the Chiefs, the last 8 years have led to the Chiefs being in 7 consecutive AFC championship games. If we go back, what was the last AFC championship game the Chiefs were not in? Do you remember?
AFC championship game without the Kansas
City Chiefs. You have to go 8 ones ago.
Patriots and
you're correct on the Patriots.
Yeah, well, that one's easy.
Yeah, because they went to the Super Bowl.
Patriots Colts.
I have no idea. It wasn't the Colts though. I don't know who the Patriots played. Patriots Jags. Yes, it was the Jags. Blake Bortles. That's a crazy thing. The last time the Chiefs were not in the AFC Championship game, Blake Bortles was in the AFC Championship game. So, yeah, the Jags beat the Steelers. That was the year the Titans beat the Chiefs, and then the Titans lost the Patriots and the Patriots over the Jags. So good job, chat, on that trivia that Sam and I didn't know off the top of our heads. So here is the other nugget that I thought was very interesting, Sam. And Easton actually found this after our pre-show call. This is also from Albert Breer, was talking about the structure of the Titans GM role within the Brinker and Callahan sandwich there, right? That said, this is from Breer, the structure intentionally is a little different than what most NFL teams employ, or a lot different. Breer continues, Callahan will report to Borgonzi. Borgonzi will report to Brinker in a setup that mirrors what you'd see in other sports outside the NFL. Borgonzi, this is the important part, listen to this list. Borgonzi will oversee coaching, scouting, sports medicine, sports performance, player development, and have final say on the roster. That's from Albert Breer. So Borgonzi will have final say on the roster. And he continues from Breer, the idea generally is to allow Borgonzi to focus on building the team and football operations and take some other newer age elements of the job off his plate. So that is different, right? Final say on the roster is Borgonzi.
Say that list again.
Okay, the list from Albert Breer on SI.com, what Mike Borgonzi will oversee. 6 things: coaching, scouting, sports medicine, sports performance, player development, and have final say on the roster.
So what the heck does Chad Brinker do?
Chad Brinker.
You should not have brought this up on this morning show. Well, because now I'm back down. You're
back down.
I hate it now.
You hate it now.
I mean, what are we doing? That's literally another last set, like Rashid, that final say had to be a last minute change. Now we're just changing it. Now we're going back on everything that we said. Because we feel like it.
And you mean
no
the Titans. Like you're talking like through the Titans lens of like
no consistency anywhere. That really upset. That really is irritating.
So
I think it's toxic. I think it's horrible.
Okay, so hashtag QJ asks, so why is Brinker even there? Which is kind of like what's saying like, what does Brinker even do here? So look, most general managers in the NFL today have to deal with non-football related things, like business things. Like when a player has a problem with their contract, now you have to go to the GM, right? And so this is my interpretation of what does Chad Brinker even do here. I believe Chad Brinker is doing the non-football X's and O's things that the job consists of. Look, it is very much a 2 people doing one job type of thing, right? But who cares when the owner can pay whoever the owner wants to pay to do the jobs and split the jobs up, if that means the jobs can be done with more nuance and more detail than if one person was spread thin, right? Because if this works out, you will see more NFL teams do this. If this doesn't work out, it's because you have too many cooks in the kitchen and egos get the best of you. And when you're dealing with men in high power position roles, egos usually are the downfall of it, right? But ideally, Chad Brinker gets to deal with contract negotiations, salary cap situation, budgeting, non-football stuff that requires logistics, travel, player engagement things off the field, all of this stuff, while Mike Borgonzi gets to focus on football and making a better football team, developing better football players. So that is my interpretation of it.
Then they shouldn't lie.
Now, I hear you. Because Burke Nihill said 2 weeks ago that
Chad's in charge of everything.
Chad's in charge of everything. Now, was that a lie at the time?
Yes. It's a lie. They lie. That's what they do. This is why I'm sick of them. All they do is lie. Toxic, bad, dysfunctional organization. Horrible.
So,
and they play themselves. This is not normal. This is not a normal function of an NFL front office. It might be a normal function of a Premier League.
No, this is different. This is different, right? Like, it's not normal because, again, I'll read what Albert Breer said again. Again, we don't have this on the graphic because we discovered this later on. The structure intentionally is a little different than what most NFL teams employ, or a lot different, and then goes through, and the fact that Borgonzi does have full roster control. The idea is to take all of the newer age elements of the job off of Borgonzi's plate and put that on Brinker's plate. So, like, I am for the again, it can work if the two guys get along, right?
I guess I don't try. I know it's not going to work. Like, I mean,
the odds is it going to work? Will the person that will Amy Adams Strunk give it time to work is the ultimate question that we don't know the answer to, because time is the only way for us to know that answer. But I think it can.
Why are we lying, Austin?
Look, I'm with you.
If they had a plan that was legitimate, they wouldn't need to lie about it.
So here's also what I know. Because when I was having these conversations Friday afternoon, after we got off of the live stream, once Borgonzi was the hire, one of the conversations while I was learning information, there was legitimate issue that NFL franchises had with how the Titans initially described the job. Like, Jonathan Jones reported that, yes, it is a real GM job. The NFL said, okay. And that allowed the Chiefs to not have to give permission for Borgonzi, an assistant GM, to interview for a GM job. Like, teams were concerned. The Chiefs and everybody, I'm going to go back to our candidate list here. Here is the finalist list, right? Every team that has the AGM next to that name was concerned about letting that person interview for what could have been a lateral job.
Which is what I said when the list came out.
Right, correct. And teams were concerned about that, but the Titans proved their case. And so it is a real GM job. And the result, Sam, is they got the best candidate. Like, right? Like, we believe, like, we thought Mike Borgonzi was the best candidate. We didn't think the job was good enough for Borgonzi, but they got him. So does it matter? Like, are you willing? Like, here's the thought. Yes, Burke Nihill said Chad's the decision maker. But if you get the chance to hire the best person for the job, do you want to adapt, or you just want to be stubborn and say, no, we said this, we can't go back on it? So if we're stubborn and stick to what we said 2 weeks ago, we can't get the best guy. So do you hire the second or the third best guy because of what you said, or do you adapt?
I don't understand the adapt thing. I mean, you knew Mike Borgonzi was available and taking interviews when you announced what you were looking for. it just shows that you have no consistency within the organization. You have no idea what you want to do. Everybody's looking out for themselves. Chad Brinker now has himself set up so that when the Titans absolutely bottom out in 2025, he can point at Mike Borgonzi and say, he had roster control, not me. He controlled coaching, not me. He can
Sam,
wipe his hands clean, and Mike Borgonzi can do the same thing. And guess what? Titans fans have the wool over their eyes the entire time because they've been lied to at every single turn.
But Sam, the most important thing of us and you writing and publishing this, fortunately, sources told A to Z that Chad Brinker made the choice.
I don't blame him at all. Of course, he made the hire. It protects him for life.
No, it doesn't. It puts that on him. It puts that on him. So we have done that. We are setting it clear because we found it out that Chad Brinker chose Mike Borgonzi. So if it fails, if Mike Borgonzi is not good at this job and it fails, it's not on Amy Adams Strunk. It's not on Burke Nihill. It is on Chad Brinker's broad shoulders. It is. That is the reporting that we are doing. So moving forward, we don't need to allow the Tennessee Titans an out. We have to hold them to this, that Chad Brinker's decision was to bring in Borgonzi. He was the best candidate. And if it sucks, then it's Brinker. Now,
I agree with Teron here.
I don't disagree with that. I think the next domino to fall is absolutely Callahan, is what Teron Davenport from ESPN.
But listen, Austin, if they're going to do this, if they're going to do what Albert Breer is reporting, right? And now we're pivoting from what we very clearly, like we did a whole ass round of PR to make sure we promoted the future behind Chad Brinker and all the football decisions he's going to make, to 1 week later be sitting here saying he's got absolutely nothing to do with it anymore. If that's what we're going to do, no, that's what you said, right? He's doing everything non-football. After 1 week ago, the PR message from the Titans was that Chad Brinker was all things football and just looking for a guy that was a scout that was going to help him. So if we're making that change, I need them to own it. I need somebody to stand at the podium and say, Mike Borgonzi is going to make the roster decision.
Well, guess what?
If you can deliver to me a clear message of who has control, I can buy in. But if you're going to keep lying, keep contradicting yourself, keep this weird cloudy situation going on, I'm not going to believe you.
Well, guess what? There will be a press conference at some point where you can ask that question.
And I plan to.
If you get to it first, because I'm sure TD is going to ask the same thing. Easton's going to want to ask it.
So I don't care who asks it.
So is Terry. Somebody's going to. And you know what? It needs to have a round of follow-up questions until Robbie Bourne has to say, okay, let's move forward. like again, they need to be pressed on this because you're not wrong in that. But I think the importance is the reporting that we have done. Chad Brinker made the hire. Chad Brinker decided on Mike Borgonzi. John Eric Sullivan was in the fray. Terrence Gray felt good about it too. But Chad Brinker decided that Mike Borgonzi was the best candidate. And that's what they did. And now Albert Breer is saying he's got roster control on top of the other 5 things that we thought he was going to have. And Chad Brinker is salary cap guy, budgeting guy, and Mr. Logistics, which that's an important job. And again, ideally, if this works out and somebody says, who cares if they start winning games, which is the truth, nobody will care if they win games. Ideally, I'm cool with that split of responsibilities if they can work together and not let egos get in the way. Because if Chad Brinker is coming in here and talking about like, no, I don't like this guy's pass set when they're trying to find a right tackle. No, that's not his job. Like, you can give your input, but it's up to Brinker, right? It's up to Borgonzi. So I think you got to stay in your lane.
Yeah, I mean, it can work if, one, like you said, they stay in their lane. And two, the other aspect of that to me is just like the messaging does matter. And maybe people want to read between the tea leaves and think it's insignificant. To me, I care about the way that they do their messaging with something like this. Because you fired Ran Carthon. And so are you replacing Ran Carthon with a guy who's supposed to be doing the same job or a different job? How has Chad Brinker's role changed? Where is your organization in terms of when we look at the number 1 overall pick, when we look at free agency, when we look at some of these visions for the long-term future, is Chad Brinker involved in that or not involved in that? I need all of this laid out to me and be very clear, and I don't want any more contradictions in messaging at all.
Right.
I mean, the only reason that I supported the firing of Rand Carthon while keeping Brian Callahan and Chad Brinker on board, the only reason that makes any sense is if you're going to align yourself to have a very clear power structure, to have guys that are held accountable for everything that happens below them. And what the Titans described when they said that it would be Chad Brinker hiring a general manager who would report to him, who would be, doing a lot of the scouting, gathering data. Chad Brinker gave a personal endorsement to Brian Callahan as the Titans head coach. Well, now we're being told Mike Borgonzi is control of coaching. What if Mike Borgonzi doesn't want Brian Callahan as his head coach? What if Mike Borgonzi wants Brian Callahan to make changes to the staff that Chad Brinker didn't make? Now we're contradicting what we said, and now it's getting inconsistent.
And nobody's going to be unanimous on everything. That's just not how life works. That's not how anything works. But it's how can you come together and have a discussion to find the best path forward, right? So I want to get to a comment that Burning Devil. Here is what I'm reading. Burning Devil says this: Rand was not the same level as Borgonzi, though. That is how Burning Devil is taking this, is that Mike Borgonzi and the other people that they felt comfortable hiring in this cycle were better at the job than Rand. That is the reason why that Rand is out, is because they thought they could find somebody better to do the job. And I think it's as simple as that now. So let's keep on moving forward on this Monday, because we did want to ask you guys this question. We got a lot of extra updates, and that took a turn because of the new information from Albert Breer. What you got?
Well, I just wanted to, I understand that decisions are collaborative by nature. You just heard a description of what has gone down in Kansas City with Brett Veach and Mike Borgonzi and everybody over there making decisions for the last 8 years now, and how it's kind of everybody's had their fingerprints all over it. And that's what I expect, right? That is what you expect of a well-run organization. But you also respect a point man whose head is on a stake if it doesn't work. There has to be somebody who's held accountable. And the issue that the Titans have had, and I'm worried that they will continue to have, is people who are more worried about creating job security for themselves, preserving their place in a front office, rather than having clear, deliberate accountability for the decisions that are made. You can look back at maybe 5 of the most key critical decisions. And matter of fact, I would challenge you, Caleb, look at the most important moves the Titans have made over the last 5 years. You can't tell me for sure who is on board with this or that, right? And maybe in hindsight, you can go back to the A.J. Brown trade. Was Amy on board with that? Did Mike Vrabel want to do that? Did John Robinson act alone? Did he get a sign of approval from Amy? Did Amy side with John? That stuff wasn't really clear in the moment. It kind of came out in hindsight. Who drafted Will Levis, Mike Vrabel or Rand Carthon? We've heard conflicting reports about both of those matters. When you look at the decisions that the organization has made, obviously everything requires collaboration and multiple different opinions, which is then decided on by one person. That where you end up getting dangerous is when you don't have that same person being held accountable because they pass off blame to others. And I think you are setting yourself up now to have an organization that continues to pass off blame instead of wiping it from the top down. I was hopeful that we would get to a spot, and maybe it still will be, right? Maybe, I doubt it, maybe it still will be, a spot where it's okay. If it doesn't work, we know that it's Chad Brinker making decisions, and everybody on the staff underneath Chad needs to go, and Chad needs to go, and we need to wipe it clean. But now I think you're kind of doing this hot potato of blame.
All right. So look, I think we will do our best to find out based on the press conferences that are to follow, because we haven't gotten anything yet on this. They made the hire on a Friday afternoon, and here we are on a Monday, which is a holiday.
I have more faith in Albert Breer than to believe he would put such a large typo into an article.
Yeah, there's no way that's a typo. because look, and Easton and I thought about that. Like, is this a typo? There's no freaking way that roster control is a typo. All right, so let's ask this question.
No, the thought is Brinker. Like he's
Oh.
supposed to say Brinker in that thing, but I don't think
there's
Brinker,
no way. There's no way. There's no way. I know how the SI editorial structure works. There's no way when it comes to that. So, all right. Now that we've gone through all that, let's ask initial grade. What is your initial grade for the Titans hiring new GM Mike Borgonzi from the Chiefs? What is your initial grade on this? We've still got a ton to get to today here on the show. But first, I want to tell you guys all about our friends at the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you got to know who you can turn to and who you can trust. And that is the folks in Franklin, Tennessee, boneandjointtn.org, right off of I-65 and Highway 96. Super easy to get to and accessible. And they've got the best people, the best doctors, the best physicians, the best surgeons, the best resources, the rehab facility, and the support staff to make customer service very important as well. So injuries do happen in life. Know what to do and how to get rid of it and how to heal and move forward. Boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM is the sportsbook born in Vegas. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports when you first sign up. Place a wager, and whatever your first wager amount is risk-free. It can go back into your account in the form of a bonus bet if you lose. So play it big, up to $1,500 on your first bet, even if you lose. A second chance to win big thanks to that bonus code ATOZ Sports and the sportsbook born in Vegas at betmgm.com.
All right, so Sam, I'll send you the chat. A, B, C, D, F, whatever, plus, minus, whatever you got. What's your initial grade on the Mike Borgonzi hire here? As we have told you guys, Chad Brinker is the one who made the decision. Albert Breer reporting at SI that roster control is under Mike Borgonzi's responsibility, which is a different tune from what we've heard after the Titans fired Rand Carthon. So now I'll let you hit up the grades here, Sam.
Curtis says B+. Titans. Kyle's at an A. We got an A from Zedro. We got an A from #QJ. Nick says A. A from Darius. We got an A from, well, now Curtis. Curtis says A if he gets us a QB, so we can go up to an A. A from Burning Devil. A, B, A+, B+. A from NM Titan. A-, B+. Very high grades. Zach says C-. He won't be around in like 3 years. Very possible. C, who knows? Don't even know his actual role. Great point from Devin. A from Mr. Jones.
Again, we have to ask the questions. We have to hear it from them. But Albert Breer is saying his role is that.
No, we have to hear it from them because.
And the NFL, right? The NFL asked and investigated this, and they said that, okay, yeah, real GM role. So.
Yeah, but they've already changed his role and his job like 3 times since having it become available. So.
Okay. I'm just saying that's what's out there right now. We will ask questions about it when they do have a press conference.
A- from Jason, A from Dylan, A+. I'm giving this hire a C, a C-. Austin, I was ready to come in here. I was ready to give you a nice A. I was ready to compliment the Titans on their process for, looking for the guy that they thought was the best candidate, for going away from maybe what was comfortable for Chad Brinker and finding somebody who the league as a whole is very bullish on. And I have knocked my grade down, an entire letter grade, down to a B. There's still a lot of reasons why this is good, why this is above average, but there are concerns for sure that limit me from giving this like rave reviews. If the Titans can sit up there at a press conference and very clearly spell out for me what the structure is going to be and who to hold accountable for different moves, then I will give this an A and feel very confident about where they're going. They have not proven to me that they are able to do that. And so for the time being, it will remain a B in my eyes.
So I think it's interesting. We have to, when we're doing our initial grade on this, we have to go with the information that we have, and we have to understand that getting a quarterback is the simplest way to succeeding in the NFL, yet the most complicated thing to do. So there is luck that goes into getting a quarterback on top of really good evaluation and really good process. Luck has to play a factor in that alone.
Yeah.
So I think when I'm looking at what I expected from this hire and what they got, I'm still at an A, because for a week and a half when we were going through the candidates, Sam, I felt like every time we mentioned Mike Borgonzi's name, we were like, he's a pretender because he's too qualified. Like, they don't have a shot to get him. Like, it was like we almost didn't do as much research on Borgonzi because we thought he was too good to get the job.
True.
And the fact that that's who they got, I think deserves credit. Now, you can be critical or question many things in this. I think that's fair. I think that's what you should be doing. And we're going to find the answers out, hopefully, ideally, in a press conference. But I think it's an A right now. When Mike Borgonzi he was close to getting the Washington job last year. Adam Peters got it. And if we want to believe all of what Albert Breer is saying, then also what goes into this is the last bullet point, the bottom of this graphic. Borgonzi was in a small decision-making circle in Kansas City with GM Brett Veach, coach Andy Reid, and senior VP of football operations and strategy Chris Shea. So every decision made over the past 8 seasons in Kansas City had his fingerprints on it. If you're trying to do what the Packers do, and you're trying to do what the Chiefs do, which is where Brinker and Borgonzi have come from, then it's good to get people that have been with those organizations for closer to 2 decades. And those 2 franchises, I think, are probably some of the 2 of the top 4 most stable franchises in the entire league.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you throw the Steelers in there, they're super stable. The Patriots are no longer stable. Who else is stable? Who else is as stable as the Packers, Chiefs, and the Steelers? The Ravens?
Yeah, Ravens.
So I think it's an A.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, fair, right? Like, I think you're right about the idea that they overachieved from what was expected. I guess my definition changes a little bit because that's not necessarily what's important to me. The background of the guy who was coming in was not the most important thing to me here. The structure of the organization remains the most important thing because I think it is a necessity if they want to become stable. One of the things that all of those organizations that you mentioned have is very clear functional structure, and a way of operating that I think the Titans lack. And so my hope with the Ran Carthon firing, and we'll get to a couple super chats here as we talk a little bit more about this, that they would get there. There was the number one thing that I wanted to see, and whoever that they hired, was that it fell in line with sort of that functional structure. And I have questions now about, so like, what I'm not like, for as negative as I probably have been on the show, I'm still giving it a B because of just Mike Borgonzi's resume and what I think he could be capable of. But I still think you're lacking the structure that was the most important thing to me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And by the way, they call him Borgo. So
Borgo, yeah.
Borgo. So we're going to get into that. Like Borgo is like that's the people that know Mike Borgonzi call him Borgo. Another fun fact, the Titans now have an I formation running their football because Mike Borgonzi was a fullback at Brown, and Chad Brinker is a former running back. So you've got a lot of just, put your head through a brick wall type of guys running this football team, which is just hilarious as they try to continue to enter a modern age. Fullback and running back. So Borgo and Brinker running things here. Let's get to some super chats that you guys have dropped in before we flip to a lot of the football that happened over the weekend. But first, Farm Bureau Health Plans can help you out. FBHP.com/ATOZ. They can be the place you go for your health coverage. If you're trying to get better in the new year, 2025, Farm Bureau Health Plans can help you out, your family out, whatever your situation is, to save money and get better coverage on that health plan by going to FBHP.com/ATOZ.
Today's show brought to you by BetMGM. BetMGM is the sportsbook born in Vegas. Use the bonus code ATOZ Sports. When you sign up with BetMGM, get up to $1,500 back in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet misses. So find a play Got a national championship game on tonight between Ohio State and Notre Dame. So today's the day to play it. Go to BetMGM, use that bonus code ATOZ Sports, get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets.
I don't think we're going to be doing a Chef Borgonzi, although that does really sound good.
Chef, it does sound like that's a brand that I need to go to Chef Borgonzi's place.
Yes. Right. Have you had Chef Borgonzi spices? Yeah, his lemon pepper is fantastic, right? Mm-hmm. Chef Borgonzi knows what he's doing. All right, super chat time. Kick it to the King starts us off. Please tell me you were rolling your eyes over Buck stream talking crap about zero chances the Titans should take a QB literally after Sam killed it. I don't know what Buck said. I'll have to go back and check with Buck on that. But look, we're going to talk a ton. Now that there is a GM hire, there's a press conference that'll come soon. We'll have a ton of opportunity to talk draft and the quarterback position. As we all know, that's what makes it work.
We know what I stand on that. So
yes, 100%. Johnny says Brinker only said that he would break ties. That doesn't mean that he wants/needs final roster decisions. Only if there's a disagreement, calm down. So you're shaking your head. Why?
Well, I brought up the receipts. So number one, we just haven't. This from Jim Wyatt on Titans.com right after Rand Carthon was fired a couple of weeks ago. Said Carthon was hired by the team in 2023 when Vrabel served as head coach. He was promoted to executive vice president and general manager last year, and his duties were expanded to include all areas that impact the football team: roster control, team activities, personnel decisions, including draft and free agency acquisitions. That is the responsibilities that you gave to Rand Carthon, which are now pretty much identical to the description that they just laid out for Mike Borgonzi. But then they followed up by saying, quote from Burke Nihill, "It is important to Amy to have absolute clarity in the football organization. And so while the general manager position will have a primary responsibility on all these things, Chad is describing in terms of the day-to-day of overseeing the roster and the coaching staff. Chad is the leader of the football program, so Chad will be the final authority on all football matters, including the roster." That is a direct quote from the team president. Chad will be the final authority on all football matters, including the roster. This is not breaking a tie. This is not what the Titans have said. They've said he will be the final authority on the roster. And so you've got a GM doing the day-to-day on scouting players and looking at players, and Chad Brinker is the one making the decisions.
Which, hey, that means if it doesn't work, it's Chad Brinker's fault. And it's right there, clear as day.
But now apparently it's not, because
now but it is. But it is, Sam. But it is. It rolls downhill. Chad Brinker has final authority on all football things. He hires Mike Borgonzi. He was a part of the hiring of Brian Callahan. I agree with Teron earlier that Callahan's the easiest thing to move on from if it doesn't work out next season at some point, because you've got data on him as a head coach. That makes sense. But if Borgonzi doesn't work out, Brinker goes too. That's as simple. It should be as clear as day in that.
I'm on board with that.
But who knows? All right. Noah, big super chat coming in here, says, can we get a definition of roster control for the Titans organization? Feels like we have different words for certain things. Like the GM isn't a normal GM. Like roster control is a stamping thing or formulating the actual moves. I think it's a great topic for the press conference to find out, like, how do they define roster control? Yes, I'm with you, Noah, on that.
I mean, but that's the question, right, of the press conference that we're looking to ask is, what is roster control? Because you've now contradicted yourself. Like it or not, like chat, some of you guys are coming after me thinking I'm making a mountain out of a molehill here, but they have contradicted themselves. And so I think it's important that they clearly define that we have a clear idea of, is this quote from Burke Nihill saying Chad is the leader of the football program and the final authority on all football matters, including the roster? That doesn't sound like a guy who's just breaking a tie to me. That sounds like the guy who's making the decisions. But if they think it's more a tiebreaker role, then that needs to be clear. That needs to be stated. They need to talk about that. They need to explain where the roster control is and what roster control means. And Greg, it is the most important thing in the world. It is more
in the Titans,
in their world. It's not really that important. There quite literally could not be something more important than this. The structure of your front office, the structure and function of your organization, from ownership to general manager to coach to player. You want to talk about being the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Packers, the Steelers, the Eagles, these teams that are in the playoffs every single year, they have this. The teams like my Chicago Bears that have had one winning season since I was 9 years old, the Tennessee Titans that are a laughing stock of the league right now, that were just the worst team. Like, those are the teams that don't have it.
Look at the
dysfunctional things.
Look at the big Washington logo on the graphic there. That franchise just completely reset from a terrible structure to a correct structure with the right people in there. Now, it involves an ownership change, but they're in the NFC Championship game.
Sometimes it's ownership. Sometimes you need an ownership change in order to start running like a competent organization.
And they've been trying to get an ownership change in Washington for a long time.
Like this as who cares? It doesn't really matter who's got final say, because it is everything.
Yeah. All right. Last super chat here before we switch to some of the football stuff on the field. Amnesia says, I'm with you, Sam. The team went from the number 1 seed to the number 1 circus. Even if they turn this team around, they will still be known as Carolina 2.0. I mean, if you turn it around, you figure it out.
Those are the signs. These are the signs, though. Amnesia is right in the sense that look for a dysfunctional organization. Find the team that went from the top to the bottom in a shockingly rapid amount of time. Like, you're not supposed to be able to be number 1 and immediately tank all the way to the bottom unless you consistently can't get out of your own way and make a lot of bad decisions. The Panthers are one of those teams. The Titans are one of those teams. There's teams across multiple sports that are also like that it's like, just as you think they're ascending, they go straight back to the bottom because they don't have the ability to consistently. They catch lightning in a bottle rather than building it the way that it's supposed to be built.
Yeah. And again, I think the Chiefs are a good example of changing the narrative of their franchise. Like, the Chiefs pre-Alex Smith years were kind of a joke, right? Like, they had Priest Holmes, they had some good players, Larry Johnson. They had some nice things, but until they got Andy Reid from Philadelphia and they had Alex Smith come in, they put it together. Patrick Mahomes, again, one of my favorite stats and trivia things of all time is, before Patrick Mahomes, the last Kansas City Chiefs quarterback to win a game as a starter that was drafted by the Chiefs was Todd Blackledge in the early 80s. So they went 30 plus years before they had a quarterback drafted by their organization win a game as a starter. But they put it together, and Borgonzi was a part of that.
Yeah, and I think they had an ownership change to the Hunts and started
they had a power shift.
Power shift, yeah. Started hiring. They hired a good head coach. They started having stability in the front office, and then slowly they started to, get out of the basement and out of the joking tier and occasionally make the playoffs or be very good teams. And then they got the quarterback and they put it all together. And now they're on this magical dynasty run that maybe will never be replicated. So they did it. There's other teams like that continue to do it over and over again and turn things over. And then there's your team that will have one good season. You guys make fun of the Bears all the time. The Bears are a perfect example of this. They go 12-4 one year, go all the way to the playoffs, are looking like the favorite to maybe win the Super Bowl or at least go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. Double doink, season over, never made it back. 2 years later, they're back at a 4-win football team because they're dysfunctional at every turn and they don't make good, consistent decisions as an organization. And so they find ways to just catch lightning in a bottle for a second and maybe have a chance to piece something together, but it's never actually going to last.
Yeah. Devin has a couple of comments I want to get to. Sam, I want this. I think you can go write an article about this and we can talk about this later in the week, because Devin earlier said, who is KC drafted? And then in the last 7 years,
so many people.
And then Devin says, I'll say this again for the haters. The Chiefs don't draft well. They're well coached. I don't think
that's true.
I think they are well coached and they have drafted well. And we will do content surrounding that terrible take from Devin. So don't go through it. We don't have time. We're an hour
I'm
in this
looking
thing.
at the last 7 years. There's
so many good players.
9 to 11 Pro Bowlers on here.
So many good players. So many good players. That's ridiculous. I mean, yes, Mahomes and Andy Reid do pull a lot of things together, but geez, that roster is so stacked. So anyway, all right, let's get to the games on the field. Sam, I want your biggest takeaway from the weekend's games. If you guys have a big takeaway you want to talk about as well through the divisional round of the playoffs, we'll get to that. We were right about a couple things on the field too over the weekend. But first, the Bart Durham Injury Law is where you should go for any of your needs. Our new friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. Crash can change your life forever, and help is only a click away at bartdurham.com. Your big truck wreck is Bart Durham's fight for justice. You can reach the Bart Durham team 24/7 to get your legal questions answered. Their phone number is very easy, 615-242-9000. You can go to bartdurham.com for current news, blogs, and always have a contact and live chat function. They've been in business since 1975 with Bart Durham, who passed away last April. But Blair Durham, former Marine and a Nashville legend, is out there doing great things in the community behind the scenes, but also for you when you need him and his team. So check out Blair Durham and his team at bartdurham.com.
BetMGM, that's the sports book born in Vegas, bringing you today's show. They are giving you a chance to win big, risk-free. Bonus code ATOZ Sports. Your first bet is risk-free with a chance to get a bonus bet of whatever your wager amount is of your first bet back into your account in the form of a bonus bet if your first bet misses. Okay, so go for the national championship game. Find that pick. Maybe it's Ohio State on the spread. Whatever it is, I teased a couple of things together to get some plus money on Ohio State money line, basically, which is not a bad little situation for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Use that bonus code ATOZ Sports when you do it, though, and even if you miss, even if there's an upset, Notre Dame comes in there and ruins all the fun, well, you get that money back into your account for a second chance to win big. BetMGM.com.
That's right. All right, so biggest takeaway from the weekend, Toff is singing Fly, Eagles, Fly with me. Speaking of BetMGM, I perfectly nailed the emotional hedge of Rams plus 6.5. Got real dicey, real sweaty there towards the end of that, but I won both. It was the perfectly played emotional hedge. Now, it was not that far away from just the Eagles losing, and then I was in deep trouble. But Sam, you were right about the Bills. You said Bills minus 1.5, right? It came down to Mark Andrews' 10 fingers and a drop. Man, crazy of how Mark Andrews in that second half just really crushed the Ravens in a couple different ways.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens, that was an example of kind of not what I necessarily fully expected, but kind of close to why I felt like the Bills had a really good shot in this game. When you look at just what Josh Allen has done this year, he has done the one thing that people have been asking him to do as a quarterback, especially, he hasn't really been that prone to this in the playoffs, but the criticism of Josh Allen is always the mistakes, the negative plays, the turnovers, and things that just shoot the Bills in the foot. For all of the magic that he can create, those big negative plays and turnovers put them in a bad situation. And what we've really seen from him all year this year is the ability to cut those and not really have those exist. Lamar Jackson came into this game with more turnovers than Josh Allen on the year, despite the fact that Lamar only had 4 interceptions. The turnover number was high. Not high, but higher than what Allen had.
Yeah.
And what we saw in that game was the Ravens moving the football really consistently, that they just made mistakes. Lamar Jackson throws a horrible interception in that first quarter, has a horrible fumble in that first half as well that sets up the Bills to go and score a touchdown. Mark Andrews with a fumble at a critical time in the beginning of the fourth quarter, I think it was. And then Andrews drops that 2-point conversion. Derrick Henry had a massive drop in the game. It was just a team that beat themselves in a way that Buffalo did not. And so, it wasn't the prettiest game for the Bills. Josh Allen wasn't even asked to do all that much outside of run the ball, not make any mistakes, make a couple of big throws on third down, and hand the ball off, manage the clock. But, overall, the Bills did not beat themselves, and that was the difference.
Yeah. Look, I don't expect Derrick Henry to make that type of catch because I've watched Derrick Henry try to catch footballs for a long time. But Mark Andrews, man, I don't get it. I'm like,
It's unfortunate, man. It's like
it's
he's had such a good year, and he's
yeah.
a Ravens legend, obviously, for what a career that he has had with the Ravens. And I'm not sure what his contract status is, but hopefully we'll continue to have with the Ravens. And
And he's he's like a good person. I think he has
oh yeah,
diabetes and is out there as like a spokesperson for that. He's done incredible things like for helping people out on planes and stuff. Like Mark Andrews, good dude.
I mean,
And
there's an argument to be made. Like he's 29 years old. Mark Andrews is on like a Hall of Fame trajectory right now as a tight end
yeah,
with
yeah,
over 5,000, 5,500 receiving yards, 51 receiving touchdowns. Just an incredible, 3-time Pro Bowler, All Pro, awesome football player for the Ravens that has the potential to keep having a good career beyond this. And outside of having, a playoff heroic moment, going to, unfortunately, this is what happens, right? You're
yeah.
remembered for
The
moments like
bad
that.
stuff. Yeah, it just takes one thing to ruin that. Chris says, why doesn't Henry get the ball on 2-point conversions? I actually heard this from Will Bowling this morning. The last year Derrick Henry converted a 2-point conversion was 2021.
Yeah,
Well,
I think I've had this take for a minute. I don't know if Derrick Henry's a good short yardage back.
I think it's
He takes a while to get going. He's got big, long legs that are easy to wrap up, like at the line of scrimmage, especially when you're stacking the box against him.
and he's
You-
tall,
He's tall. That's what
which
I'm
is
saying.
hard
He's
for
tall.
leverage.
He's big, long legs, and
He can
so
go over the
wrap
top.
him up. He can go over the top, but from 2 yards out, or if you're trying to jump the pile in the middle of the field, I'm not sure that Derrick Henry is built. You want a guy who's lower to the ground who can get really low.
Yeah, for sure.
He's just not a short yardage guy.
he's
He's a
a
big
good
play
goal
guy.
line guy, but like the 2-point conversions from the two, that's not like that's a long 2 yards. And I think 2-point conversions should be or passing plays because a run on a 2-point conversion, a handoff that's it. You get one chance. There's no counter. I also like Mark Andrews should have caught the ball. The Ravens should have converted, but I hate the QB sprint out on 2-point conversions
Hate it
because
too.
you limit your counter.
You
Like
take
there, there
you
should
can shorten the field, but significantly, yeah.
2-point conversion should always be a shotgun situation. There should always be a zone read option or a play fake.
Love that. I
And
was
then
going to say they should run the option with Henry, and that would be, I think, a better choice.
yeah. And so look, so my biggest takeaway from the weekend was on Friday, I was like, are the Commanders going to beat the Lions? I kind of floated that out there. I did take the over 55.5, which almost hit at halftime.
The first half.
Yeah. But the Lions are obviously dead. Like their injuries caught up to them. There's a lot of parallels with the 2021 Titans and this year's Lions. You've got Macho Man head coach, a completely banged up roster, a running back that is coming back from an injury midseason, and David Montgomery that scores a bunch of touchdowns. And then you've got coordinators that are about to get hired and leave for other teams. And you had the 1 seed and you just lost it all because your veteran quarterback, turned the ball over 3 times. And it's just I feel for Lions fans, but I heard Mike Greenberg say this. I watched ESPN's morning show yesterday for like 10 minutes, which I usually don't do. But Mike Greenberg said that Jaden Daniels is making the case, and he might already have done it, is the best rookie ever in the NFL.
Yeah, I saw that. I would disagree, but
I mean, he's a quarterback that's led the franchise from the number 2 overall pick to the NFC Championship game.
Sure.
And it's hard to disagree with that.
Andrew Luck.
I don't remember Andrew Luck's rookie year, what he did, but he was the first pick, so an equally terrible team.
Mm-hmm. Andrew Luck, his rookie year. I'll just pull it up for a refresher. Went 11-5 as a starter with the Colts. Threw for over 4,000 yards. So took the worst team in the NFL that I think went 0-16 the year, or 2
No,
and
they
4.
didn't. They didn't.
They went
They
2
won.
and 14. Yeah, that's right. 2-14 to 11-5.
I mean, Jaden Daniels went to 12-5 and has won 2 playoff games.
Sure.
I think Jaden Daniels is the best rookie to ever in the NFL history. Like, Jim Brown was great, but that was in the 50s. Like, Jaden Daniels is doing ridiculous things.
Okay.
I just think he's accomplished more than any rookie. I think maybe. He's
Accomplished, I would agree with.
All right.
Accomplished, I would agree with for sure.
Okay, well, we got a lot of time to talk about the championship games too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Jaden Daniels thing, I'm avoiding.
And Marino went to the Super Bowl his second year, not his rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from
So I think he's the most accomplished rookie, Jaden Daniels is.
I mean, yeah.
I think we are going to see a regression at some point.
Naturally, yeah, because you can't keep that up. It's ridiculous.
I mean,
I don't think it should not be expected for Jaden Daniels to keep it up. Like,
yeah.
Like I expected CJ Stroud to have this type of year, growing pains, because yes, you should. That's how that works. Okay. Let's get anything else?
Yeah, I want to talk about Kansas City.
Okay.
I'm trying to I'm trying not to like overreact, but it's reminiscent of like Miami Heat LeBron. It is the most insufferable, unenjoyable, worst watch, unlikable team, unlikable play. Like, I've seen stuff of Patrick Mahomes off the field where I'm like, hey, cool. Like, seems like a really good dude. I don't know how the NFL. He's worse than Tom Brady. Twice,
Yes.
like more hateable. The way that Patrick Mahomes plays football, the way that the Kansas City Chiefs get calls in today's NFL, because Brady, you can argue, right, at the end of his career was getting a lot of help from calls and stuff. No doubt, for sure. But it's a different NFL now than the one that Brady built the Patriots dynasty in. And the fact that we are having like game-changing calls of guys that are not hitting him in the head, and it's just not roughing the passer, game-changing penalty. What are we going to do about it? Nothing. We can't pick up the flag. We watch the ref. Like, we're bringing in the officials who are, by the way, supposed to come on the broadcast and back up the refs, who are coming on there and just kind of being like, I don't see anything there. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. The fact that you've got this guy, doing what I complained about him doing earlier in the year, feeling extra vindicated on the show, because after the Trevor Lawrence hit, I blamed all of it on Patrick Mahomes, because Patrick Mahomes loves to do that thing where he runs to the sideline and then slows down and either scoots upfield or slows down and then flops on the floor and tries to get a penalty call. And it leaves the defensive players in a horrible position where somebody needs to just hit him and just like take the penalty, teach him a lesson, and be like, hey, you're not pitter-pattering around the sideline another time in this game. Like, I think that's the message that you have to send. It is such an annoying, insufferable brand of football to watch. And to make it worse, Patrick Mahomes is also a sore loser. For a guy who gets all the help in the world, who is like number one most benefited by refs, the fact that like I cannot get over that video of when Josh Allen beat him in the regular season 2 years ago, whatever it was. And it was the incredible play by Travis Kelce, throwing the ball across the field to Kadarius Toney for a touchdown. Masterful play by Kelce. But Tony's lined up in the neutral zone. He is lined up he's offsides.
Yes.
And we look at it, and it's clear as day. It was the right call. It's the right flag. They throw the flag, and Mahomes says, goes to midfield to go shake hands with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's like, hey, good game, bro. See you in the playoffs. And Mahomes says, worst effing call I've ever seen, bro. That's horrible. That's horrible. And then he's moping and complaining in the press conference about how, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. This is going to affect Trav's legacy. And I mean, could you be more insufferable and obnoxious?
Yeah. The one word that I always think of when I think of Patrick Mahomes is entitled.
Yeah.
He
And
is.
and it's hard because he is not like that off the football field.
Honestly,
It's hard to say. You're right.
Yeah, the way they've named their children is a red
Okay,
flag for me,
fair.
to be honest. Like, you have 3 kids and you name them in this order: Sterling, Bronze, and Golden. Like, if you're going to name your children off of that, you have to name them in order of
I
gold,
totally
silver,
agree.
bronze. You
Totally
cannot
agree.
make your middle child Bronze. That is the most disrespectful thing to all middle children. I'm a 2-kid family.
Not
And I
only
know
can
that.
you be not only are you the middle child forever, you also have the worst name of the 3.
Yeah, and like, if you're going to name your kids off of that, then name them like Golden, Diamond, and like something that's like their level,
Ruby or something like
right?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not freaking Sterling, Bronze, and Golden. That's weird. So I don't like them. I'm out on them. Like, I think Mahomes drives me insane. He is entitled.
It's just, and also like this Chiefs team, if you're going to be a 15 and whatever, they go 15-2, but they were 15-1 at one point team, like, and they're just the best team that wins, at least be fun to watch. Like, I mean, they don't play fun football to watch. They just they have an awesome defense. Credit to Spags and like that defense, because they are unreal.
I love Andy Reid.
Yeah, I like Travis Kelce. I know people might be sick of Travis. I enjoy Travis Kelce a lot. I like Andy Reid a lot. Mahomes makes them so unwatchable and unlikable. It is unreal, because he's sitting there complaining about that thing with Josh Allen, worst call I've ever seen, and likes to complain every time something doesn't go the way that he wants. And he refuses to admit the fact that he literally won a Super Bowl off of a completely horrible, soft ticky-tack holding call that took the game out of the player's hands.
Yeah. Zach used to get on to me for this because Zach loves LeBron. I've cooled off on LeBron now, but Patrick Mahomes has the LeBron face. When something goes wrong and they just make it's the LeBron face.
You're not allowed to make that face.
No, dude, you fouled him, okay? That was a good, it's just like, dude, get over it. You do bad things sometimes. You make mistakes. You're not perfect. And it's the LeBron Mahomes face.
I got reminded this past week of that Tony play, and it will forever haunt me, just seeing Patrick Mahomes be all, and it's very clearly shows him lined up a yard off sides, and it's what are you doing? I don't care that it was cool and that Travis did something cool. It's a foul. We gotta call it.
Yep. 100%. All right. I don't have time for the age game. We've got to get rolling. But make sure that you have time for Wilson County Hyundai. If you're in the market for a new car, make Wilson County Hyundai a part of that process by seeing them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. We still have no idea when this Mike Borgonzi press conference is going to be.
It's got to be tomorrow, right?
I don't know. We'll find out, but I don't know if it has anything to do with the Chiefs winning and what Borgonzi's got going on with the AFC Championship or not. But we've got tons of time throughout this week to discuss some great football coming up. We got a game tonight. I don't care who wins. Notre Dame plus 9.5 wins me the most money.
What should I be rooting for, Austin, real quick? Should I be rooting for the Big Ten to take another title, or should I be rooting for the transitive property Northern Illinois?
I think you should root to have an entertaining game. Want to be involved by watching in the fourth quarter. If we are interested in the fourth quarter, I'm happy with it.
Neither one, yeah. For a team for two teams that seem to have interesting narratives, Ryan Day trying to save his job, and Notre Dame, just how long it's been for them, and how close they've gotten in some of these years. Two teams with an interesting narrative. I'm surprisingly not all that interested in either one.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So hoping for a good game.
Yep. We'll see how it goes. Jeff, I see your comments. I'll work on that. And that's it for us on this Monday. Buck, we'll be live tonight. Talking more Titans and Borgonzi. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to our channels as well. We'll catch you guys tomorrow morning on a Tuesday. We'll see how Zach's search for Heat goes. And we'll catch you guys then. Appreciate it as always.